3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Grok Talk.
All right, we're back. Welcome to Grok Talk, brought to you by the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers and GraniteGrok.com. Make sure you check us out on Spreaker, iHeart, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, YouTube, Google+, GraniteGrok.com, of course, which is where you might be listening to this program right now. Please remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. All right, well, we didn't anticipate that this was going to happen, but, well, it's here, and we're going to go with it.
It's lively. So FRN has been a controversy for a long time in New Hampshire. It was an evil Ponzi scheme. A lot of people got defrauded out of their life savings. The state has repeatedly failed to prosecute it, and now we have two people that are actually involved in that mess from different angles, both in the studio, and it's going to get lively, folks. So let's go. We have George Lambert and Mike Gill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead with your accusation.
Accusation? How about this accusation? For years now, right? I've been putting stuff on my sign, running these videos, right? Who's suing me? Name one person who's suing me. Name one person who says I'm lying. When I said Shaheen ran the Ponzi scheme, Shaheen put Hildreth in. Hildreth had his brothers on it. Gallagher was Hildreth's best friend who was protecting him. Now, George, I made it very direct. I ran victims group now, didn't I, with these FRN people? And didn't I go there? Have I charged them anything? Said I was going to charge them anything?
I have no idea.
Right. How about this? Who's worked closer with them than me?
Probably no one.
Right. So, you know, I have sat down and talked to them. I've seen them cry. I've seen them not have money to buy teeth. I've seen all this. They all came to me and said that you were getting 20%. You came to them.
No,
and when I talked to Kevin Avard, who you were working with, had no idea you were getting 20%. Or is that not true?
That was totally true.
Oh, so why wouldn't you tell
family,
the state senator who was putting in the bill, who was sitting across next to you on the table, that you were getting paid? You think it might have hurt their chances knowing that you were going to pull 20% out? And think about this. What were you doing getting 20%?
That was
victims?
the number they offered me. One family, not all the victims, one family said, you know, we would like your help, and if we recover money, we will pay you 20%, and we'll ask other people if they wanted to contribute. Doesn't matter.
Oh, so we're having a fund for you. We're contributing with a nice big fat can around the victims and say, who wants to give George Lambert money? How about this, George? First of all, I don't believe you, and I believe that was the deal, and I think we can prove it.
Go ahead.
How about this? Nobody's proven anything that I've done wrong, and I've proven everything I've said, which is why I'm not being sued by all these large law firms, which is why the banking commissioner, which I call as a crook, won't take my license, right? Because Furlow's an insurance defender. Now, why is an insurance defender from the AG's office, who I reported the Ponzi scheme to, and came from McLean? See? So, in other words, that is the case. How about this, George? If we go with your side of the story, which is not true, it's completely immoral. How about this? Let's charge victims for recovery. You're running for an office. Listen,
No,
I'm not going to tell you.
No, that discussion happened after I lost my election, and they asked me to continue.
Oh, they asked you. Now, why do you think they came to you? You know what they came to me and said? George Lambert told us not to tell you, in particularly.
No.
And they said, we feel uncomfortable with it. Listen, you said no? How many people you want here next week?
All right.
I wish I had room.
Yeah, like I said, we're going to have to schedule it a couple of weeks out to give him a fair showing.
Yeah.
But let's give George a chance to talk for a couple of minutes, Mike. I understand you're wound up.
Hey, listen, George can say everyone. Listen, let's have George talk. Let's see how it goes.
All right. Well, as long as you give him a little while to talk,
Of course I will.
Then you can rebut his arguments. Because if we just talk over each other, we're not going to get there.
Of course, I understand.
And by the way, I'm going to put on the table, not because I'm saying this to defend George, but we're talking about here recovery actions of money in a difficult situation, for which my understanding
You mean
is
corrupt situation that was run by the governor and and Bill Shaheen.
fine. But regardless of how it was done, when you have a legal suit to recover money, typically the attorney is not doing it totally pro bono, and usually there's a contingency fee that says...
Right, but who's the attorney here?
Well, okay, that says if I lose, it's my cost, and if we win, I get a small take. And I'll be perfectly frank with you. Most big firms that get into this stuff...
It's illegal.
...are looking for 30%.
It's illegal. He's not an attorney. He's not a lobbyist. So you can come to his aid all you want.
All right, no. Like I said, I was just putting that on the table as the fact that recovery actions typically involve...
Let's take the money from the guys who commit suicide. Oh, we can't get them. Now, there was 3 last year. But go ahead, George.
Right, so now let's give George the floor for a minute to explain...
Absolutely.
Or to tell us the sequence of events and to explain what he's doing and why it's not illegal.
I worked on getting this bill and support for this bill when I was running for Senate. I was very open and upfront about that. I went and saw the Attorney General, Richard Head, at the Attorney General's office. I collected material. I sent it out to everyone. When I was in the House...
What material?
I got Richard Head's notes. I got all kinds of stuff from the website.
What did it say on his notes?
It said all kinds of things.
Well, did it say about the Ponzi scheme and FRM and how they all knew about it in the Attorney General's office? Let's not call it material. Let's call it what it is. Go ahead.
After I lost my election...
What was in the notes, George?
All right. So let's.
Well, wait a minute.
Hang on. Let's stipulate a couple of things here. So there was a Ponzi scheme running with the knowledge of those in state offices and state law enforcement who should have been shutting it down.
Well, he got the notes from the AG, so they had it in 2003. So, yeah, from the attorney from the Banking Commission. So when we call it material, I mean, hey, listen, this is a piece of paper. What's on it? So let's find out. George, you did read the notes, right? What did because I still have the notes, and so does the Justice Department. What does the note say, George?
I told you that the notes, the handwritten notes from... Richard Head were different and inconsistent.
Who was he talking to? What were the notes? There was one set of notes with a conversation. Now, who is he having a conversation with?
Actually, there were lots.
And the woman that you were running against. You shouldn't remind...
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
We had conversations with Donna Soucy.
Oh, in fact, the notes were in the discussion to Donna Soucy exclusively, and then it was their conversation about other people, like me. But go ahead. So do we agree on those notes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so we do agree on those notes.
Yeah, well, hang on. We're not getting a chance to get a coherent...
We said material and skipped through it. How incoherent do you want to be? Would it only turn around the material spells out the Ponzi scheme that the AG's office and the Banking Commission knew?
I get it, but can you pick it apart after he said a few words instead of...
Well, he said material and went through it.
All right.
Which I shared with anybody who wanted it. What I was trying to do is
who'd you share it with, George, besides myself?
They're
going to be witnesses. Go ahead, George. I want to hear it. Who? You gave it to many people.
Yes.
Who are they?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I will have to
First
check
of all, many, and we don't know. I mean, Jesus. Go ahead.
Well,
what? Many and not one? I'm the only one? He was only running against that candidate whose notes was hers with Head's. Head's only trying to shut me up with a summary judgment right now. Right.
I get
because of them finding out this.
I get all that, but if we stop George word by word, we're not going to get...
Well, when you talked about material with information that would quite literally would put these people in jail, I think it's worth more than a material statement.
We just don't have that kind of time, Mike. We have to let him get his words out. You can go ahead and rebut him after.
I'm fine, but you did hear him say many and then come up with zero.
I got that. And
I want George to go forward. Keep going, George.
Well, yeah, if you stop interrupting him, we'll get more, and then you can pick it apart later, okay?
Right. Well, we're out of time. Go ahead, George.
For this 15 minutes, maybe.
Yeah,
but there's more. There's more. You've got more time.
Go ahead, George.
Go, please.
After I lost my Senate race, the people I'd been working with to collect the information and sort of construct the whole story so that we could go out and communicate it to people in very small, understandable sound bites, because it's a very complicated situation, asked me if I would continue, and I said, really, I could potentially do something, and they said, we had a meeting, and they said that if I would actually work on contingency for them, that they would actually pay me. They picked the number. They picked the terms. They said, a lawyer is paid this way. This is not in front of a judge or anyone else. And I didn't force anyone to do it. I didn't force anyone to sign a contract. I was working in good faith for the best interest of all of the victims, and said, I'm not forcing anyone to do anything. Now, if that's if somebody wants to make a separate accusation, go ahead. Show it. Prove it. Bring anybody you want. But that's not me. People have known me for years, and I actually was trying to do the right thing.
Right. Well, I can bring all the victims,
Go
and
ahead.
they did say that. I will. And you know something? They came to me about it. How about this, George? You just explained you broke the law.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you're not a lawyer. You're not a lobbyist. You broke the law. You didn't even tell, when you sat in that hearing and you spoke to it, did you tell that panel that you were getting paid? You were the same guy who voted against FRM before. Before you didn't vote for it. Now you get paid, now you will. Everything I'm saying I can prove. And how about this, George? Is Richard Head, the Assistant Attorney General, a criminal? And is he corrupt?
I don't believe that any court of law has actually found him to be a criminal.
That wasn't my question. I didn't ask you. I'm saying your personal information. You only took the guy's notes. Is Richard Head a criminal and corrupt?
I have serious concerns about the fact that there's a difference between his handwritten notes and the report he submitted to the Governor Executive Council. That gives me a great deal of concern, which is why as soon as
The
I
same
found that
guy
out,
he has concerns about being a criminal is the same guy who took, while he's running an election, his notes. Now think about that. And you know what in those notes?
And I
it
gave them to
infers
you.
criminality. You're right. Who else you
I
give them to?
wasn't
Who else you give them to? Right. You know why they gave them to me? I'll tell you why. So they knew I was going to be present at that meeting because I promised the victims I was. And I turned around and went to these people and told them about these notes. They knew I was going to do it. The only way they could have turned FRM over and gave them money was new evidence. How's that for new evidence that they produced? So they wanted to turn around and had George leverage it with these people to turn around, then sign releases that they wouldn't go after Hildreth. They were going to say, oh, it's just Hildreth. They weren't going to go after Shaheen and the real corruption in this state. Right. That's exactly what happened. You can get all excited and all, but
I'm
listen,
not getting excited.
I
I'm
will
sitting here
prove
perfectly
everything.
calm.
You want these victims here? I'll have them here. I was at that hearing. You know, after you spoke, you walked right the hell out. I've got a tape of the on notice. You can get to see it. It's on the internet. And Kakavis only resigned 2 weeks later. You know why? Because I was on his trail and have a witness that I'm going in for immunity with that would put Kakavis in jail. And it goes right back to Richard Head, which you know is corrupt.
I only can tell you what I've seen, and I said it gives me serious concern, which is what I told you in your
When
office.
did you have concerns? After you took the notes or before the notes?
No,
Richard
I
Head's
got
been in
his-
every
I have
dirty piece of business in this state. What do you think they sent it? Judge McHugh, Richard Head. That's how it works.
I have had concerns about a bunch of things at the Department of, at the Attorney General's office, but after actually going and sitting with Richard for a number of hours, I think he means well, but he's got lawyers.
He's a
speak.
crook, and you know he's a crook. He is an absolute crook. Listen, the AG's office is the cover team. Every time something goes wrong in the state, you go to the AG. I mean, the only ones that get fired out of the AG are their own people, and then they get hired back. You know why? Because they hold the secret. Why do you think Hildreth is in Kansas City and behind bars? Because he has the secret. He only went in open court. If I go to jail, I'm taking Lynch and Shaheen with me. Right? Anybody figured they'd want to ask the question? Oh, I don't know. Why would you say that? No one did. They tapped him on the ass and said, oh, he plays Dungeons & Dragons 7 hours a week. The whole prosecution was corrupt. Alex Walker was part of it, my personal attorney. I'm the one who brought the Ponzi scheme to him. And you know who I brought the Ponzi scheme to? Walker, Kakavis. And then I went to the AG's office. You know who I talked to? Furlow, who now became the banking commissioner. When does insurance defender become your banking commissioner? Right. Wilbur was the banking commissioner. You can't find him with a search warrant. He left. Didn't say why he was leaving. You know why? Furlow told me he was a Boy Scout. Wilbur looked at it and goes, I'm not dealing with this cover-up. So the insurers cover it up. Now, why do you think the insurers might cover up? Right? You don't think we could have a class action shoot with a corrupt banking commission, do you? There's the answer.
We're going to take 30 seconds, and
Well,
I want to talk about your...
I would have thought that a class action suit would be exactly what the victims would want, as long as there wasn't too big a cut being taken.
Right, but it's all the attorneys in the state. How are you going to get one? I only get an ad for $10 million.
The bar in this state is...
$10 million for an attorney for 2 years, and I can't get one. Now, what do they know that no one else knows? The PCC, Ronnie Wise, controls that. Here's a 64,000 question. How can all these attorneys be controlled? By their license.
Right.
Okay.
We're going to take a short break. I
Short
want to
break.
talk about your run for governor when we come back. Stay tuned, people. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at gerardatlarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Rock Talk.